Now, there is unrest that is unfolding in Sudan, and according to reports that have now come in, there have been explosions that have rocked the Sudanese capital Khartoum and many other parts of the North African nation. The confrontation follows days of tensions between the armed forces and also a powerful paramilitary group called the Rapid Support Force, or the RSF. These are the videos that have now emerged on social media. There are reports of explosions and gunfire that has been heard in Sudan's capital Khartoum. The army reportedly has entered into the camps of the paramilitary forces with heavy weapons. The paramilitary claims that the army had surrounded one of its bases and had opened fire. And according to reports, gunfire could be heard in several parts of Khartoum and adjoining cities. Now, the RSF has been in a power struggle with the army and has said in a statement, and I quote here, this is the statement by the RSF: the Rapid Support Forces were surprised on Saturday with a large force from the army entering into their camps in Soba in Khartoum and laying siege to the paramilitaries there. And as clashes erupted between the two forces of Sudan, in response, the paramilitary has said that it has now taken control of several key sites in the country. The areas include the presidential palace and also the airports in Khartoum, Merowe and El Obeid. Now, these are visuals from inside of the Khartoum International Airport. Travelers can be seen taking cover as the two forces are fighting it out just outside of the airport. Meanwhile, in response, Sudan's Air Force reportedly has been deployed. According to the Sudanese army, the jets have struck multiple paramilitary bases in Khartoum as fighting continues to rage on the streets of the capital between the rival security forces. The Indian Embassy has now issued an advisory for all Indians living in Sudan. The Indian Embassy has said that all Indians have been advised to stay indoors and to not venture outside with immediate effect. The American Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has said that the situation in Sudan is very fragile, but he's insisted that there is still an opportunity to complete the transition to a civilian-led government. That this sudden eruption of violence has come after weeks of deepening tensions between the military leaders Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and his number 2, the paramilitary commander Mohammed Hamdan Daglo, over the planned integration of the paramilitary Rapid Support Force into the army. So let's tell you more about the RSF. The RSF reportedly emerged from the militias that were involved in the conflict in Darfur, which broke out over 20 years ago. The body's been accused of human rights abuses. It operates its own legal code and chain of command. The RSF joined with the military to overthrow the long-ruling Islamist strongman Omar al-Bashir in a coup back in 2019. The two forces had then carried out another coup in October 2021, but the relations between the military and the RSF have since deteriorated, forcing a delay in the signing of an internationally backed agreement with political parties for a 2-year civilian-led transition for free elections. There was supposed to be a transition that was to happen towards a civilian-led democratic form of government, but that simply has not happened, even though Omar al-Bashir, the former strongman, was ousted in a coup back in 2019. And also to give us more details in terms of what's, of course, happening at this moment in Sudan, we're being joined in by Mr. Mohammed Al-Amin, who is a journalist who's joining us live from Khartoum in Sudan. Mr. Al-Amin, thank you very much indeed for taking time out and speaking to us at this moment. We understand that there are reports of some heavy weapons, in fact, being deployed in this contest between the Sudanese army and a paramilitary called the RSF. Give us a sense of what's actually happening at this moment, because there are reports that say that the RSF has in fact now taken control of the presidential palace?
Yes, actually, these clashes have erupted early morning today, and in the first hours, the RSF have the upper hand actually because they use the ground forces. They have like hundreds thousands of ground forces with military vehicles and advanced tanks. So they attacked Khartoum from different directions, and they could take over the international airport, the presidential palace, and they also taken the Marawi Air Force Base, which is a strategic National Army Air Force Base in northern Sudan, and they surrounded other places, and one of that places was actually the house of the Army General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. But like an hour ago, the National Army has started to use the airplanes, and they strike some RSF locations. So now the balance of power has started to be balanced. I mean, but the coming hours is still will going to be crucial in who will going to win this.
Absolutely, indeed, Mr. Alamin, because as we speak, we're looking at these visuals of the Sudanese army, which is reportedly now deployed its air force. We're also looking at visuals of air strikes that are being carried out by the Sudanese army. The question that I need to ask you is, how powerful is this paramilitary force, the RSF? What sort of a challenge does it in fact pose to the Sudanese National Army?
Yes, actually, there are a lot of things because, these forces on the ground, I mean, the ground forces of the RSF, I mean, in terms of number, in terms of weapons, in terms of, I mean, the quick maneuver and movements, they are looks much better than the National Army. Also these forces is sharing the same places, the same locations or neighboring locations everywhere, even inside the army headquarters. So this is also one of the difficulties for the staff to use or to change this war into full-scale war, because the regular army, I mean the disciplined army, cannot fight well inside the cities. So maybe also this is one of the reasons. And the RSF, they have some locations inside the neighborhoods as well. So this is also may complicate the situation and make it uneasy for the National Army, which is disciplined and regular army, to use its normal tactic of war.
Absolutely, indeed. Now, Mr. Alamin, my final question to you is this: the RSF and the Sudanese military, because at this moment it is this coalition of a paramilitary and a military that were in fact ruling Sudan ever since the ouster of Omar al-Bashir. But what we are witnessing that is playing out on the streets of Khartoum and indeed across Sudan is effectively an all-out civil war between these two factions. Now, does this mean that the talks are now completely off the table? And what happens for these negotiations that have been held for the last 4 years of a transition towards a peaceful, civilian, democratically elected government? Is that now completely off?
Yes, actually, because, we knew well since 2019 when Al-Burhan and Hemeti, the heads of these two armies, have allied together to remove Omar al-Bashir under the pressure of the popular uprising in 2019. We knew since that time they have an easy partnership because they have a lot of areas of conflict of interest, because both of them are having ambitions of power struggling. So, and the both sides also have loyalties to different regional and international sides. So this is why their partnership is really uneasy, and it may, we knew that it may be exploded at any moment. They engaged with with the transitional civilian government for like 3 years.
All right.
Then they did the military coup together, and now they are fighting in the end because of all these long trip of power struggling among the two men.
Absolutely indeed, Mr. Alamin. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for joining us from Khartoum and getting us all those details. There is open civil war that is now broken out on the streets of Khartoum and indeed across other major cities in Sudan. It is difficult at this moment to predict as to how long this civil war that is now broken out today since this morning will of course continue in Sudan. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.